Hi everyone, and welcome back to Big Fun Arts. Continuing with our Fireworks CS4 lesson, we're going to talk about the idea of fill and stroke of vector objects in Fireworks. So we are going to create a new document with a width of 640 and a height by 480 at 72 pixels per inch. Clicking OK to begin working with fills and strokes. I'm going to go ahead and grab an ellipse tool here and begin by creating an ellipse. Now, if I look in the property inspector, you'll notice that there is a fill right now of this periwinkle blue color and a stroke of none. This red line through the color chip that lives next to the pencil indicates none. That's the none symbol. So if I click once on the chip, it opens up the picker. This is the none symbol, and if I wanted to give my shape a stroke, which I do, I'll give it a black stroke. You can now see this is a filled box filled with black, and it has the number 1 here. It also has an indicator for what is known as the type of brush. Now it's none again, and now it's a basic brush if I put a color in here. Let's grab a color, again black, and I'll choose basic. You can see we have hard line, hard rounded, soft line, soft rounded, airbrush, basic and textured, and many more brushes. Now I'm going to give this a soft rounded line, and we're going to concentrate for the most part on fills in this lesson. So there's my new shape. It has a fill of my fill color and a stroke of my stroke color at the current stroke settings, which there are many. Okay, when I click away, I'm going to zoom in and take a look. You can see there is our fill and stroke, and once again with the shape selected I can increase the size of the stroke and decrease the size of the stroke. Alright, back to none, and let's talk about the different types of fills that there are in this lesson here. I'm going to zoom out and resize using the scale tool. I like to jump around through the different tools that I've already used with you, and in fact I'm going to copy edit copy, and then paste, edit paste. You can also use those key commands if you'd like. And now I have 2, and notice when I pasted this object, it pasted it in the exact same place. And here's a little tip for you. I'm going to select both of these objects. If you're on a PC, you're going to press down the Alt key. I'm on a Mac, so I'm going to press the Option key and click and drag, and this also will copy as I move. So now I'm going to click away and select these 2 and click and start moving and press the Option key, and you can see I copied these shapes. Okay, this is fine for what I need to do, which is show you about different types of fills. Starting with the first object. The first object is a solid fill, which I know you know what that means. It's picking a solid color. In the next circle, I am going to put what is known as a web dither. And a web dither is kind of an old-fashioned way of mixing together 2 different colors or more to create the illusion of another color. So I've just mixed purple here with my blue, and if I change this to yellow, you can see that the swatch changes quite radically, and I'm mixing a color by mixing the very simple dithering effect. So that looks great. I'm going to love it. I'm going to hit return, and when I zoom in on it, it doesn't look like it's dithered right now, but if I was to zoom in on it, going to grab my zoom tool, just down here, kind of stuck away down here, or I can grab the one at the top. That's new, and you can see now when I'm zooming in on this, it actually is dithered. Okay, so that is a web dither or a dither effect. When it's zoomed out to 50%, you can't really see it, but at 100 you can kind of detect that it has a kind of a meshy look to it. Alright, the next fill we're going to look at here, I'm going to zoom out again, using my zoom tool, pressing the Option key, I'm zooming out, and I'm going to select this third object. Yes, it is already selected, and the next choice is a gradient. Now with gradients you can see there's quite a few choices. There's linear and radial, rectangle, cone, contour, satin, starburst, folds, ellipse. You can look at all these on your own. I'm going to fill it with the typical linear gradient here and show you that you can control the angle of the gradient by clicking this little circle and then grabbing the square and rotating it. Kind of an interesting interface. So if I want the radial gradient, I would choose from the gradient choices here, radial, and then I would put my little circle gradient marker in the off center and drag this to the edge and get kind of a 3D effect. So now you're probably wondering how to change the colors of the gradient. So I'm going to click and open up right here, clicked this swatch, and it opened up the gradient control box. So I'm going to click on the color purple and make it blue, and if I want to add another swatch I can do that. I can sample color from the screen and you can see my gradient is getting more rich. It's the one that's selected, so I'm actually affecting it as I work, and I'll add another. If I double click I can open up the swatches panel. Now I have this beautiful gradient, and I'll be talking about how to save gradients and how to save color swatches a little bit down the road here. So now there's a lovely gradient on here. The next type of fill that we have is what is known as a pattern, and there are literally hundreds of ways, maybe more than hundreds of ways, to fill your objects with patterns in Fireworks. This is like a metal plate pattern, and you can also adjust the pattern using these handles. When I click away and zoom in, grabbing the zoom tool again, clicking, you can see it's fairly dithered. Gives you the illusion of a metal plate. Back to 100%. Let's try another type of fill here. There's a type of fill called texture. When I'm on solid, there's a type of fill called texture, and I can choose from textures. Now textures are different than patterns, and here's how. These, the pattern fills, are actually bitmap images filling up your objects. So when we are sliding through these options, we're actually looking at bitmap imagery that can be put inside of this function called pattern. However, these guys here, the textures, these are actually being driven by the application themselves and are completely independent of a bitmap, which is to say I can scale this shape, and you'll notice that the effect is also being scaled as well. I'm going to undo using Command Z a few steps to get that back to the way this was. And one more time here, I can choose a pattern, and not only can I choose a pattern, but I can choose the intensity of the pattern by sliding this, what looks like an opacity slider, and additionally, I just clicked there by accident, you can make your element transparent. So if this element is transparent, when I drag it over to ones that are underneath it, you can see through it. A lot going on here, I know, in fills, and we've just started to scratch the surface. So there are other ways to control the look of your fills on your objects, and what I'm talking about now is changing the color of this shape and dragging it on top of this shape to its left, taking this raspberry colored ellipse and putting it on side of this texture ellipse. And I want to look inside of the layers panel now, because with each one of these options we've got the layer control as well. So right now the shape is on what's called a normal fill, and I can change the opacity. This is like the transparency. And I can also control the blending mode just like in Photoshop. So we've got all these delicious ways of controlling color and therefore making our objects look unique and giving us the kind of design control that we're really looking for. I'm going to just set this up to multiply here. And in the next lesson I'm going to delve deeper into how to control the edges of your objects using Feather. I hope you continue to explore these different options inside of Fireworks for controlling fills. We'll be touching on many more of these in practical application when we do the workflow lesson. So in the meantime, have big fun, and I'll be seeing you soon.